There's a lot of information going on behind me here, so let me talk you through it. First of all, in the middle you can see the answers to the questions, A, B, C, D and so on. To the right of the answer you've got the timing where you'll hear the answer in each recording. Please note that the recordings I've used to take the timings from are the audio files you can download from Macmillan once you follow the instructions given to you at the end of your coursebook. Lastly, because the questions are on different tracks, I've also put the number of the track where you'll find each listening on the left-hand side. To explain why the answers are the answers, I'll tell you the part of the listening which directly relates to the answer. Hopefully you'll very quickly see how the vocabulary in the question connects to the clips from the listening, so make sure you've got your coursebook open at the right page now. I'm going to be moving through the questions quickly, so please pause the video and rewind it as many times as you wish to understand where those vocabulary links are. If, however, you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch through the contact form on this website and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay, let's go. For question 1, the answer is D, a musician, as the speaker says, playing in front of huge European audiences. Playing referring to playing musical instruments. And then later on the speaker says, I used to get the instruments out and compose something, which also indicates that the speaker was a musician or at least interested in playing music when he was young, and that continues to now when he's older. For question 2, the answer is C, a teacher, as the speaker says, I think I got into this profession partly as a reaction to my own teachers. I wanted to show them how teaching should be done. In other words, we're led to believe the speaker, so unhappy with her teachers, became a teacher out of an act of rebellion. Interesting. For question 3, the answer is H, a parent, as the speaker says, there was never any doubt that we were going to send Andrew to boarding school. If you send someone to a school, you must be in a position of authority to do that. In other words, you must be a parent. Afterwards, the speaker also talks about family history, which is also a contextual clue. For question 4, the answer is a researcher, as the speaker talks about carrying out studies and our investigations and analysing examination results. The reason why it's a researcher and not a scientist is down to the subject of the study, social relationships and resulting educational results. This is more sociological educational research as opposed to the classical idea of science. For question 5, the answer is G, a scientist, as the speaker says, the wonderful science museum, and that's where it all began for me. The idea of science education beginning there leads us to understand that it continued into what he is today. And indeed, later on, he says, in my laboratory, I have to do everything with extreme care and it is vital you do not rush things. If you have a laboratory, you're a scientist. For question 6, the answer is G. Education should encourage creativity, as the speaker says. For me, that's what education should be about, getting kids to express themselves, to use their imagination as a means of developing their abilities. Talk of expressing yourself is a clear vocabulary link to the idea of encouraging creativity. For question 7, the answer is H. Education should encourage students to join in. As the speaker says, my colleagues and I all have the attitude that participation should be rewarded, and this explicitly links to joining in. And then later on she says, it's better to have a go, even if their answer isn't quite right, than sit there in silence and be excluded. Having a go also in this context refers to joining in. For question 8, the answer is D. Education should encourage a sense of responsibility. As the speaker says, the whole ethos is about becoming self-sufficient. And then saying twice, it's up to them, which refers to the student's own ability to make decisions. In other words, take responsibility for making a decision. The whole text can be heard if you listen to the recording as shown behind me. For question 9, the answer is E. Education should enable students to perform to their full potential. As the speaker says, I believe that schools should provide the opportunity for a learner to do as well as they possibly can, which is a clear vocabulary link to full potential. The speaker then goes on to explain further about the right learning environment allowing a child's intelligence to be developed further. For question 10, the answer is B. Education should allow students to learn at their own pace. The speaker explains this by way of analogy of his own experience of being taught and his activities as a scientist now. There was no strict schedule. He knew that it takes time to absorb information. In my laboratory, I have to do everything with extreme care, and it is vital you do not rush things, but the end result makes it all worthwhile. The same approach should be applied to education.